You've led this business as CEO since 2007. You know what it's like to lead a giant through a financial instability issue, through a bank crisis. What do you make of the macroeconomic environment for Adobe right now?
Well, Caroline, thank you so much for having me on your show. And as you know, we just announced our Q1 results. And for us, digital really just continues to be a massive tailwind because it's reshaping how we live, how we work, how we're entertained. And Adobe has always really focused on ensuring that we build a company for the long run. You're absolutely right, they're business cycles. But whether it's consumer sentiment or whether it's small and medium business creation or larger enterprises, while there's perhaps more scrutiny on the expense, people realize that in order to drive profitable growth, technology is one of those areas that you have to continue to invest in. So maybe we're a little more fortunate because we have more mission-critical solutions and we have a more diverse portfolio as it relates to geographic exposure. But you know, the company posted really strong results.
Let's talk about amid this desire to continue to focus on R&D. You are, of course, today announcing, or indeed over the last couple of days at your summit, announcing new artificial intelligence iterations in your product, in particular Firefly, the family of generative AI tools. And boy, the one silver lining, the one area of growth that we keep continuing to talk about, no matter what the macro environment is, generative AI models. It's in beta. Can you just give our audience really what this means in terms of text to generating image? What sort of leap is this actually as a user of Adobe?
We think it is really a transformational moment, both for the company as well as for the industry. And Caroline, what we focus on is our vision is how do we unleash creativity for all? It's our assertion and hypothesis that everybody has a story to tell. They would like to tell that story on different media. I was listening to your show and you were talking about what's happening with other platforms like TikTok. But people fear the blank page or the blank slate. And so I think generative AI is a great way to have an on-ramp into being able to take your idea, describe that in words, and then generate an image associated with it. And you know, I think people are also really focused on what are the ethical issues associated with generating, you know, these images. And I think we've taken a very prudent and correct approach. So we think it helps people make our products more accessible, more productive, and more fun.
How are you tackling those legal concerns for creators that perhaps don't want their images used?
That's part of the reason that we are actually starting with a beta, because engaging with the community has been a really important aspect of how we introduce this. We've had a site called Behance. Behance is, you know, the most popular site for creative professionals in terms of how they showcase their content and get inspired. So, you know, Adobe has had a multi-decade history of engaging with our customers. In this particular case, we were very, very ruthless about ensuring that the content on which our models were trained is content that we have absolute license for. I think other companies have not been as strict or as diligent about ensuring that the content that they use to train the models, as we all know, the more data that you have to train the models, the better the models are. And so our approach has been always to make sure that this is bulletproof in terms of having rights to it and just engaging with the community. We've also talked about how, as we continue to have our stock service, which is a very popular image 3D service, that we will compensate the people who are participating in that. So it's a thoughtful approach. It's the beginning of the journey. But most important, it's transparency and engagement with our community.
Shantanu, you are thoughtful. And you are thinking about ethics, and you just mentioned TikTok. So I just have to go there for a moment. What do you make of the business?
Well, I think from my perspective, you know, every few years you have multiple platforms. And for me, when I think about TikTok or I think about the other platforms, it's really this insatiable appetite that people have for both consuming and for creating content. And so, you know, I am not as familiar with all of the issues that others are perhaps concerned about. But from my perspective and the role that Adobe can play, it's like, how do we allow people to express themselves? And I think that insatiable appetite is not going to go away.
Of course, when it comes to authorities analyzing tech businesses like TikTok, there's some authorities eyeing M&A here in the US, in particular, the DOJ analyzing your deal for Figma. At the moment, how integral is the Figma deal to your generative AI movement forward? How integral is that deal full stop? Will you fight to protect it?
Well, from our perspective, the strategic rationale for why we are excited about Figma is three things. We believe that we can accelerate product design, which enables new interactive experiences to be built for digital medium. The second reason is we think we can actually extend all of our products to do creative collaboration on the web and allow more stakeholders to participate, much like we did with our acquisitions of Workfront and Frame.io. And third, I think that there's this new emerging paradigm where the distinction between collaboration, creativity, and productivity is rapidly diminishing. And everybody who wants to create a school project or a document wants to engage in it both using words and text and images and animation. So strategically, we think that it is a real extension of what we do. The Figma business is an adjacency for us. I know there have been some questions about what does this mean for our core business. As we showed, our core business is extremely strong, so we're doing this from a position of strength. We're confident about our position in this. It's such an adjacency.
Yeah.
The overlap is de minimis to none, but we will engage with the authorities.
Would you ever abandon the deal if you had to?
Well, at this point, given we are confident about, the deal terms, we will just continue to operate with the authorities. And, that's what we're focused on, which is how do we, continue to deliver value to customers and demonstrate why this is a good thing for the community, for customers, and another important thing for the economy. If companies that are being created, the US has been the hotbed of entrepreneurship. It is really critical that there be economic outcomes that are appropriate for startups as well. So at this point, we're really focused on continuing to impress upon the authorities why this is good.